Welcome back, everybody, for this second hour of our first session. In the first hour, we introduced two of the characters. We introduced Accolon, the Imperial Psyker, and the sharpshooter, Timotheus, or Tim, as he's also known. And now we will turn our attention toward our Sister of Battle, I think.
Indeed.
Joan, could you talk a bit about your character and who she is and what she? I've already mentioned that she's a Sister of Battle, but yeah, still. Could you give us a brief rundown?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Good. I wasn't sure if I'd muted or not, and it turns out I hadn't, so I muted. Yes. Francesca, or Sister Francesca as it is, it's not her birth name, obviously. It's as with any religious order. She gets a name by the order when she becomes part of it. She is Talarn in origin, which means that, for comparison, she is Middle Eastern. She looks distinctly more dark-skinned than your basic pasty average European style space monkey. And yes, as you mentioned, she's a Sister of Battle. She's quite young in the service, but has been in a couple of campaigns so far. And she's a member of the Order's Militant, as it's called. There are several kinds of Sisters of Battle. But she is part of the classic group of Adeptus Sororitas, as they're also known, who are the bolter-wielding, power armor-wearing badasses. And in her particular case, she's a member of an order known as the Order of the Crimson Oath, which is a minor order. It's not one of the bigger ones that most people know. There are a couple of large orders that have a presence in the Scintilla subsector, or Calixis sector, rather. Specifically, the Order of the Martyred Lady, which has a fairly significant presence in the subsector. Her order doesn't, and she is one of probably quite few sisters of that particular order.
Cool. And to give a bit of background for the scene in which we're going to meet Sister Francesca for the first time, the agri world of Drea within the Calixis sector has long been in a state of civil war. A war between secessionists and the local PDF, Planetary Defense Force, which is basically just the local armed forces. Finally, the planetary governor decided that he needed help from the Imperial Guard, and he requested aid, and this aid came in the form of a few regiments of Bronchian long knives, and as it turns out, 2 squads of Sisters of Battle from the Order of the Crimson Oath. And when we meet Sister Francesca, it is in the aftermath of the final battle that solved that finished this civil war, that brought it to an end. The capital, Chaos, is a city in ruins. Quite literally, it is utterly destroyed. And we meet Sister Francesca as she moves through the ruins of this city. She can still hear the occasional sound of las fire, and maybe even, depending on her military knowledge, the rare sound of artillery fire from a basilisk somewhere. But yes, we first encounter Sister Francesca as she moves through the haze, the permanent haze that lies as a blanket over the ruins.
I'm kind of assuming that the place is going to be smoke filled for, I don't know, the next year or so while this burns itself out.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
something along those general lines.
Yep.
Well, she is, as you said, she moves quietly along. She's dressed for war. She's wearing her armor. She's got her bolter, the classic Adeptus Auroritas Godwin Deus bolter in hand. She does have the safety on for the moment because major combat operations have in fact ceased. There is nothing more for her to kill right now. The secessionists are beaten, so unless somebody pops up with a last rifle and decides to be a last minute savior of the rebellion, then she's got no reason to open fire or anything. But she is specifically moving amongst the dead and the wounded of the planetary defense forces of the Bronchian Long Knives, and what very few casualties her own order has suffered. And she makes sure whenever she sees a wounded man who in any way indicates that he wants to talk to her, she does take the time to do so. As many as she can manage. She takes, if they have a data slate they want to get sent to their families or something, she will take that off their hands and promise that she will make sure it happens.
And this, I imagine, takes quite a while because there are...
Yes. She can't reach everyone, obviously, but whenever there is some kid lying there with his guts hanging out, quite literally, she will stop and share a few words and remind him that yes, you may be dying, but you will be going to the Emperor's right hand because you were brave. You died in his service doing your duty, and there's no greater blessing for anyone. And she's being kind. It's not a matter of her being stern and brusque or anything. She's taking the time to show these people a last little bit of human kindness before they pass away.
Well, after a few hours of this, she comes upon an area of the city in which she finds no dead. It is eerily quiet, except for, like I mentioned, this occasional sound of weaponry.
Yeah.
And
she flicks the safety back off.
Okay. And then she hears the sound of crying coming from within a building that has partially collapsed, and it's clear that the cause of this collapse is a basilisk shell that hit the building.
Yeah. Yes. Well, she moves towards it, obviously, still cautiously. She's got her safety cap off her bolter, but she does move towards it. She does want to investigate what this is, because again, if there's somebody innocent trapped in there. But she goes and calls out to whoever it is. Is it a man's voice, a woman's voice, child?
It is a man's voice.
Yes. Oh, she calls out.
Help! Help me!
She, she approaches in let's say it's a tactical advance. She's not, just throwing her bolter over her shoulder and heading in there. She's not suicidal.
No.
But she does make sure to check appropriately first to see if someone is, if it's somebody she can recognize as a member of the planetary defense forces loyal to the Imperium, or if it's a long knife, or if it's, or if it's a civilian.
Buried beneath what part of the structure, the rubble, the debris.
Yes.
She spots two people, actually. She spots one of them is clearly dead.
Yes.
His head has been bashed in and his throat has been cut. The other, a PDF soldier, lies beside him holding a bloody knife. He's also buried under this debris. And it's him. He's the one who's been crying out.
Yeah.
And
all right. And he doesn't look like he's in a good way, I take it.
Nope. He's coughing up blood. And as she approaches, tactically, as I understand it, he sees her.
Yes.
And he smiles, teeth bloody.
Yeah.
And asks her, "Are you? Are you an angel?"
No, I am as mortal as you are. She says, and looks at him. Does he belong to a unit that was loyal or disloyal? Can she see?
He's loyal.
He's loyal.
The person beside him was one of the secessionists.
Yeah. And there isn't really much chance of him having swapped his uniform, considering the state of the collapse here.
No.
No. So she crouches next to him and takes she crouches next to him and she takes the knife out of his hand because, no need for him to, lie there and clench onto something like that. And she takes, once she's moved that away, she takes his hand in hers. He is probably, as I said, he's probably going to die. He's severely injured, and she does whisper into her vox speech. She does say, she does give her position and says that there are wounded here, and she requests a medical team as quickly as possible. But at the same time, she also knows that can be forever because of the situation in the city.
Yeah. So
she's not too hopeful that this guy's going to make it, to put it, not to put too fine a point on it.
No.
And she looks at him and takes his hand and she says, "What's your name?"
Miros.
Miros.
Yeah. Am I going to die?
You may, but if you do, I have called for medical assistance. If they make it here, you may live. If they don't, then you will go to the Emperor and sit on his right-hand side. You've done your duty. I assume that you've killed the man lying next to you.
Yeah.
Then should you die, you will die a hero. And I will make sure, she says, and looks at his rank insignia and his unit insignia, and she says, and I will make sure that your commanding officer is told that you did your duty.
He smiles at this despite the incredible amounts of pain he's in. Thank you. Thank you.
You are welcome. Do you have any sins you wish to confess, just in case? I will listen.
I I I was fearful. I could.
Yet you overcame it at the end. Here we are. There's fear can claim any man. She reaches down and just cups his cheek gently, smiles at him because it's pretty obvious he's about to expire, and at least let him expire looking at a friendly face.
So he does expire. He doesn't
Yeah.
live long enough for the medical team to arrive.
No.
But he does so with, or at least Sister Francesca. That is what she sees in his eyes.
Yeah.
A sense of peace.
Yeah.
Um,
If he has, and I know not everyone might, but if he does have dog tags or any kind of identifying information on him, she will take that to bring it to the relevant authorities.
okay, cool. He does.
Yeah.
Say he does.
Yeah. So she takes that and she checks to see if he does have, as I mentioned, a data slate or a letter home or anything of the sort.
Sure. He does have a letter home written to his. Well, it was a letter in progress.
Yeah.
But to his sister.
Yeah. She will, as she walks on from this, she will take a moment to stop in a doorway somewhere where there isn't, the immediate danger of getting shot to pieces, and add an addendum at the end of it, basically saying, I was with him at the end. He died peacefully, having received absolution in the eyes of the Emperor. And then she identifies herself as Sister Francesca of the Order of the Crimson Oath.
Cool. Very cool. So, as Sister Francesca finally decides to return to the base of operations for the squads of her fellow sisters,
Yeah.
where they've set up this base of operations, she, on her way back, she spots a familiar form lying on the ground before her.
Oh dear. Yes. She obviously she investigates once she realizes that there is somebody there she might know, and I'm assuming that we are talking here about Clarissa.
Yes, absolutely,
Yes,
we are.
Yes, and she sighs very sadly upon seeing this and kneels down to make sure to check if she is in fact dead or simply severely wounded.
She is definitely dead. Half
Yeah.
her head is
missing. Yeah. She takes her sister's chapelet ecclesiasticus, the bead of adamantium pearls that they wear with the eye at the end. Basically, it's a rosarius, and she takes that from her sister's belts and wraps it around Clarissa's hands in front of her, like she's praying in death. And then she lifts her up and carries her in both arms back towards base camp. And over the Vox beach, she informs, she calls for Sister Superior Juliana and says, I'm returning to base. I have found Clarita.
You hear your Sister Superior's voice asking what is her status.
Sister Clarita has unfortunately fallen in the service of the God Emperor.
Oh,
May she rest forever in his grace.
may she rest forever. We will make the necessary preparations. Meanwhile, Sister Francesca, you should know that members of the honored Inquisition are here to see you.
I shall return forthwith.
Good. And as you return, as Sister Francesca returns to the base of operations, she's met not only by Sister Superior Juliana, but also a thin, wiry fellow who, for all intents and purposes, might as well have been a commoner, or a civilian,
Yes.
living in one of the countless hive cities spread throughout the Imperium.
Yes.
He has no distinguishing features, no distinguishing equipment, except for the stylized eye that hangs from a chain around his neck.
Yes. She obviously wants. She does need to put down Sister Clarita first, obviously.
No.
But once she has put down the body of her fallen sister, she immediately turns and puts a hand to her chest and bows her head in deference, because obviously the Sisters of Battle are they are seconded to the Inquisition so often that you're basically told that, you know, it's probably going to happen at some point while they're being trained. So she knows how to, you know, be properly respectful.
Sure. And basically, as soon as she arrives back at the base of operations, Sister Superior Juliana and some of her fellow sisters take care of their fallen
Yes.
comrade, leaving Sister Francesca and pretty much alone with this inquisitorial agent.
Yes.
And he looks at her and smiles a broad smile. It's clear to Sister Francesca that he's had plenty of juvenile treatments.
Yes, he's an old man, but he appears much younger.
Yes.
Well, that's quite normal. So rejuvenation is a perfectly acceptable way of staving off Father Time.
Yep. And he, like I said, he smiles and asks, "And you are Sister Francesca, am I right?"
Yes, sir, I am indeed.
Good.
How may I assist the Blessed Inquisition?
You may travel with me to the planet, to the capital world of Scintilla.
Absolutely.
Where you will meet your new employer, Inquisitor Dex.
Yes, absolutely. I shall. Well, I am ready to leave immediately. Obviously, I carry everything I need.
Obviously.
May I be permitted to inform Sister Superior Juliana that I'm leaving?
She has already been informed that you would be leaving as soon as you arrived.
Very well.
Still, you may say your goodbyes if you feel the need to.
I should at least like to say goodbye to my fellow sisters, but it will only take a moment, and I will be right back. So she goes and well, she does the rounds and shares a final prayer with her sisters. I suppose a sort of a joint communal prayer, probably for the passing of Juliana. She would like to at least be involved in that.
Sure.
Or not Juliana, sorry, Clarita, before she leaves. So yes, that's once that is done, she informs them all that she has been that she has been told to accompany an agent of the Inquisition to Scintilla, and that consequently she needs to go. And then she bids them farewell and leaves.
Cool. This comes as no surprise to her fellow sisters. Well, Juliana, of course, because she's been informed already. But as you said, the Sisters of Battle are quite often seconded to the Inquisition.
It's a fairly normal thing.
Yep. Okay, so I think we leave Sister Francesca for now as she departs the planet of Drea and heads toward Scintilla.
Yes.
So, speaking of Scintilla, AJ.
Gosh.
Your character, who is she and what does she do?
Medea is the scummiest scummer that has ever scummed.
Cool. I love it.
She's from the Underhive on Scintilla. I'm not even sure she knows what tower she belongs to, because she can't read and she's lived down there forever.
Yes, she's never seen the sky, actually, I imagine, at least.
She has never seen the sky.
Oh dear, she's in for a shock.
Yeah. You talk about climate changes and culture shocks. You're gonna see a mole suddenly see stuff around her. That's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Speaking of mole, little Medea is 17 years old. At least she thinks so. She's not so sure herself. She's always been on the little streets of the Underhive and learned how to survive. As such, when you grow up amongst hatred, you grow up to hate. And growing up to hate, you suddenly find out that the best way of getting rid of frustration is murdering people. Murdering people, you sometimes murder the wrong kind of people. When you murder the wrong kind of people, you're gonna get caught.
Pretty much. It's inevitable. It'll happen eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, we have the wild card of the bunch in Medea.
Very wild. But you'll find out later.
And if I remember your background right, you mentioned that has she already been caught or will she be caught?
The last thing you see in the background is her getting caught and waking up in a cell.
Okay. Cool. So I think we'll meet Medea for the first time, obviously, in this cell, but I imagine the capture being something along the lines of I need to find the name. Hang on for just a second. So Kelsa, the eldest of the two
siblings.
The two siblings who are close to her. Basically comes up and warns her that they're after you. At which point,
Medea knows what she has to do and bolts.
Exactly.
It takes a couple of times and a couple of tries from the law enforcement. They are not that used to the Underhive, but Medea is. Sadly, they've been paid to catch her, so they will.
Yeah. and this is also worth mentioning that the law enforcement, the magistratum in Scintilla, in Hive Sibelius, as this is, never venture into the Underhive. So this is indeed an extraordinary situation.
Yeah, she thought she would be scot-free when she got into the Underhive, and she weren't. So she might not know who she killed, but she has realized it was someone that was a bad idea to kill.
So eventually she's caught and knocked unconscious and brought. So normally in this situation, and this is also one of those things that makes it extraordinary, is that normally she should expect a bullet to her head, execution on the spot. That didn't happen. and she wakes up in a dank, moldy cell. She's the only
Oh, it's
person.
just like home.
Pretty much. She's the only person in the cell. There aren't anyone in there with her. Not prisoners or any others. And she has the headache, the worst headache she's felt in a very long time.
That's funny because she doesn't feel pain.
No, and she does this time.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember that she has this fantastic quirk, but she actually does feel this headache.
She might not feel the impact, but she does have a shaking head.
And I think we see Medea in this cell for quite a while. Actually, time passes by and food is shoved through this tiny slit in the door. A plate of food is shoved through this, and that is the only way she's fed. And quite often the food actually comes off the plate and onto the ground as the plate is shoved violently into the cell. And this goes on for quite a while. She loses count of the days.
What days? It's always night.
And yet the headache never dissipates. It remains as strong as it was when she first woke up.
Okay, they gave her something.
So on the 10th, 15th, 20th, or 30th day, she can't be quite sure. The door leading into the cell is finally opened, and in steps a person dressed in a
Voluminous blah.
Exactly. Thank you. Robe, a black robe. His or her features lost in the darkness of the hood. Someone is
Stirring her tea.
Stirring a tea.
Yeah, sounded like it.
Casually, while the black hooded person is looking at her, wondering where the hell did you get that?
Exactly. And after this person comes another individual. This one wearing nothing except a pair of breeches. This person is completely bald, and you notice that the person's, even in this darkness, there is there a glow to this person? Whatever's the case, you can actually see facial features, and you can see that the veins surrounding the person's eyes are quite visible to you. They are blackened and they stand out. The person whose features are hidden in the depths of her hood speaks up and addresses you. You are Medea, yes?
Mm-hmm.
You are accused of a most heinous crime, the murder of a citizen of Hive Sibyllus, yes?
I have no clue. I was just thrown in here.
Oh, you were just thrown in here. See, the person standing behind and beside me has certain gifts. He is able to read you. That comes in handy when you seek the truth.
Medea just looks like, sure, he can read. A lot of people can read. It's clear she doesn't get it. All she's seeing is a night lamp with a pleasant glow. She does not comprehend.
So here we are, or rather here you are, standing at a crossroads. You have a
She looks confused looking down. This is not a crossroad, this is a cell. Not something she's saying, but it's quite obvious to her with a... Oh, God, no. What the fuck is that?
I love Medea already. She says this and then says, "You have a decision to make."
And then she just looks dumbfounded with a decision. Really?
Yes. I can have this person standing beside me drill into your skull for another fortnight, or another month, or for another year, before the bureaucrats above us finally decide to have you executed.
Are you saying he's my fucking headache?
He is indeed your headache, you put it. Yes.
She looks at the very annoying night lamp now.
Or I can have him stop, and you do as I command.
So you're asking me to choose between a headache or a pain in the ass?
Oh, I am asking you to choose between life and agonizing and slow death.
What's the difference?
Difference is that either you die this agonizing death, this slow death that lasts a year or two, until the Adeptus Administratum finally decide to have you executed. Or you can live, you can serve, and while serving you can have all the comforts and all the luxuries you could ever imagine. The best food, the best...
Then she lights up.
the best men,
Ugh.
women, if that is your taste.
She still doesn't look like she's sold on that idea.
Whatever the case, our employer can bring it to you. It's your choice to make. There is, of course, a slight twist to the tale. Should you choose life, which I certainly would advise you to, you will undertake dangerous shall we say, difficult missions for our employer, and you will do so without asking questions. Does this not seem, all things considered, like the better two options I have presented?
It wouldn't be the biggest difference from what I'm doing now. So yeah, I'm sold. At least I got rid of the headache night lamp.
Well, I'm afraid you're going to have to suffer through this headache of yours for at least a while yet, while I sort out the the intricate nature of your capture.
All right.
So, as much as I wish I could just turn off this headache, can't. Not until things are official. The I's have been dotted and the T's have been crossed.
Fucking bureaucrats.
And with that, my dear Medea, I shall leave you with a token of gratitude. And with that, the person in the robes turn around and leaves the cell, and with her the unpleasant headache-inducing guy, and in walks your jailer. You've seen him a few times before. You think in glimpses of consciousness while you were brought down here. He comes in with a silver platter, and immediately the room is filled with a absolutely delicious odor. And he places this silver platter on. It's one of those where there's this bell on top, and he or this round lid, and he removes the lid, and on this silver platter lies a roasted bird of some sort, decorated with all sorts of salads and vegetables. Now
that's something she's never seen, so her it looks like a very crippled thing.
It does smell delicious, though, or rather,
yeah.
I can't say if she finds it delicious, but any normal person would find it delicious.
It looks like food.
It looks like food, exactly. And it's clear that this jailer, this person who's brought the food, is not pleased by this.
He just grins at him.
He just humph, and then stands up and leaves the cell, and locks it behind him. So after a while,
basically, he's the kind of jailer who thinks that the fact that they're being fed at all is too luxurious.
Yep, there's probably a reason
Something
why
like that.
There's probably a reason why he's shoved those plates of nasty gruel into the cell as hard as he has. But yeah,
he's even worse.
She has. So a few days go by, and the headache remains until one day it suddenly doesn't. It vanishes, and in comes this shadow, this robed figure again. But she's not accompanied this time by the headache-inducing douchebag.
Migraine Man.
Let's call him Migraine Man.
That has got to be worst
actually
supervillain ever.
No, he's a hero.
That's actually the name I adopted for him in her mind, Migraine Man.
Makes you wonder if they're running out of ideas for names. Scraping the bottom of the barrel, man.
So yeah, she walks into the cell and asks Medea, "So, are you ready to meet our employer?"
Sure.
Excellent. Follow me then. And she leaves.
This person is slimy.
And I suppose, I assume that Medea follows this person.
Yep.
Okay. And this is
Madam
where.
Slime.
And this is where.
Madam Slime and Migraine Man, the ultimate duo.
No. Snail Trail and Migraine Man.
Oh, that's even worse.
Anywho,
All right.
this is when Medea catches the glimpse of sunlight for the first time in her life as they exit this massive building that is a prison. And for the first time, she exits a building and actually stands outside in the I would say fresh air, but it's not fresh. Let's not kid ourselves.
No, she's not standing out in the open. She's clinging to the fucking door. There's something weird above her.
There is an insane amount of light all of a sudden. It's unbearable almost, or rather, it probably is unbearable.
If you're close enough, you can hear a very low-toned hiss.
The person in the robes turns around to look at Medea. And
Medea is staring daggers after the sun, because how dare it?
There's a burning
see.
thing in the sky.
You have never enjoyed the sun before. Such wonder, is it not?
Can we shut it off? Where's the light switch? She looks for a light switch.
I'm afraid that's not possible. You will have...
She looks at her as if she's telling her a direct lie.
You will have to endure this. What I can only imagine as unbearable pain. And she says this, and as she says this, you get the distinct feeling that this person is absolutely enjoying what you're going through at the moment.
Medea takes a few steps out, but keeps her eyes on the fucking thing in the sky. Still so certain that there's a light switch somewhere. And why the hell did they paint the ceiling blue? And why is it so far up?
She turns around and starts walking, and does Medea follow her, or what does Medea do?
Medea follows her like a cat that's seeing snow for the first time.
Cool.
Cautiously.
I love it.
Skulking around because the snow is above her and it's weird.
Cool. And also I imagine the sounds are quite different from what she's used to.
There's a bird tweeting. Somewhere.
Well, there's certainly some sounds that she's not used to out here in the open. The sound of skimmers moving close by, and of people discussing politics and religion, and you hear this. You don't really hear much of this in the Underhive, but here you hear out here you hear the voice of countless preachers preaching on every corner of every street.
Well, she has been up in the
sure, so it might
level,
not.
so she
not
knows
be,
what the preacher is.
Sure, and
What's freaking her out is the fucking sky.
and probably also, and you please correct me if this is not true, but I imagine that what also creeps her out is the lack of sound she's used to from the Underhive. Those being the sounds of pain, of anguish, of despair, and sorrow, as people live their miserable lives in the Underhive. Nor the occasional collapse of segments of an Underhive whenever some abandoned temple collapses under the weight of people and shanty towns built on top of it.
Something along those lines. Also,
yeah.
there's too few people.
Too few people. Even though the streets
Too
are
much
crawling
space.
with them, there's still too few compared to the Underhive. Absolutely. But she moves through the streets behind this robed individual, and she notices, possibly at least, that as they move through these streets, these throngs of people out on the streets. The people scatter and make room for this robed individual to move unhindered. And eventually, after what seems like hours upon hours, you both reach a trinity of towers looming large before you. 3 black towers. And the robed figure turns around and looks at Medea and says, "Here we are, the Tricorn. This."
What now?
You really are a delightfully uneducated person, are you not? The Tricorn, my dear. It is the seat of power for the Inquisition here in the Calixis sector. It is where our employer will meet us and your fellow new recruits.
What's the Inquisition?
Oh, my dear, sweet Medea.
Well,
She
this
looks
is gonna be
offended.
fun. This is going to be fun.
You
Nice.
have... Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Bill.
no, sorry. No, please.
You
I
have...
might add that they're out in open sky, there's no tech inside. She has -15 on intelligence right now.
Absolutely.
All right.
She's not able to...
Oh, that explains it.
I love it.
She has 16 intelligence right now. She does not comprehend anything because there's no tech inside. They're outside. She doesn't get it. She's like someone is throwing a cucumber behind her every 5 seconds right now.
That means you are currently one intelligence point above where you are technically incapable of being mind controlled because you would count as mindless.
I love it.
If you have 15 or below, well, you're not mindless, but if you're at 15 or below, you count as an animal.
I like that
Yay!
you could be too stupid to be mind controlled.
Yep.
There's no mind to control. God
Nope.
damn it.
So this person turns around laughing. Come, my pets, let us meet the Inquisitor. And with that, she enters the premises of the Tricorn with you, I imagine.
Medea
Following.
follows with a, if I can keep out of the slime you're leaving behind you.
Does she actually say that?
Yeah, she's muttering to herself, if I can stop slipping in the fucking slime you're excreting, yes.
I love it. Cool. And
Long live scummers.
indeed. And with that, I think we'll wrap up the second hour of this introductory session.
Very nicely timed, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So
We planned this for weeks.
we'll be right back with the final hour or so, give or take. I don't know how long, how much longer we'll play, but yeah. We'll take a short break and then we'll be right back.